Hey, I'm completely new to this, but I've been in the mood to start something like this recently, and I figured this would be a good video or a good topic to start with. This is, as you can see in the title, just a basic beginner's guide. Just to preface, I'm only plat. I play jungle or mid a lot in solo queue, duo queue, and so this is just meant to be a very basic beginner's guide to what you want to be doing or thinking about while you jungle, and it's more meant to be for people who kind of have never really played jungle before, are thinking about learning the role and haven't really played much, not sure what to do when they play with their friends and are forced to jungle. That's pretty much it. So we're just going to go over very basic things that I think about when I jungle and what I do. And I'm sorry, I'm really not used to this at all. I don't really stream, or I guess I stream, but I don't really do educational stuff or make a lot of videos. This is my first attempt, but right here we're gonna be at red buff. This is generally bottom side. If you're on this side, you start here. If you're on the other side, you would start here, just because your bot lane can leash you. It usually takes them a little less time so they can get to lane before the minions hit. But we're just going to start here. Generally you want to take this buff first. The main thing about red buff you should think about is that it has two side effects that are really nice for your jungle clear, which is that it does damage when you hit people with auto attacks, and it slows them, and it helps regen HP. And those are the biggest things. And later in the game, your AD carry, bot lane, will come and take this, or at least ask for it. You can give it to them based on whether or not you want to, but generally this very first one is yours, and the next one generally is yours too. And these are Raptors, bottom side. Notice there's a lot of units here, so generally you want to clear these if you have AoE. Once you clear red buff, there's kind of three basic things you can do for most junglers. You either take this and then go to chickens, wolves, and blue to hit level 3, or you go down here to do a full clear, or what I like to do is actually I can't ping anymore. I clear my wolves, my gromp, and then my blue. That's actually not too standard of a path. Normally if you want to do this path, you kill blue next and then gromp to hit 3, but I actually I'm going this way because I do not have many AoE skills to clear Raptors, and I actually like hitting level 3 before I get to blue so that it's kind of faster. So I'm going to go here to wolves, and I actually clear really fast because I turned on the thing to reset. But one thing you want to think about that's a bit easier, or that is a bit helpful while you clear, is you kind of want to pull them towards the next area that you plan on going towards. So I'm going to drop next. So I'm going to stay kind of over here while I'm killing this, so that I can queue and get there as fast as possible. And then same thing, once I clear this. The reason why I'm doing this is because I will be getting blue next. And then one other thing you should think about is once you do this path, you hit level 3, you have both your buffs, which both help you in clearing and ganking, because blue buff will give you increased cooldown and energy regen, mana regen. And blue buff is going to be the same as red buff, where typically later in the game your lanes will be asking to take these camps. So maybe the first one or two are yours, and then after that, up to you if you want to give them to your teammates. So once you clear this, you can use this plant if you want. Sometimes I don't, just because when you hit it, if someone's paying attention, they'll see it and know where you are. So next option, after you finish this, pretty standard clear. You have your buffs, you've done enough to get level 3. You want to be looking up here to top lane or to mid lane to see which one you can gank. And let's say the way the waves are right now, we're a real game. You should look at the waves and count how many minions you have and how many minions the opponent has, and check where the wave is. See, like right here, you see that since this wave is bigger, it's gonna push back towards you. You can come and chill here, wait till it pushes back, and tell your teammate, you know, not to clear these minions, just the last hit. And then you can try to pull a gank, and typically... Well, I guess I should also mention one thing you should notice is when you jungle, the terrain's a little bit different on each side. On this side, it kind of... You don't have an easy pathway in, right? You have to walk through here, which typically here is easily avoided. Whereas when you're bot lane, you have this to walk through. Usually, since your bot lane is where your support is, they'll have a pink ward, or at least some vision cleared over here so you can walk through, and it makes it easier to gank when the opponent's here. Whereas over here, it takes longer because you have to walk around, and not only that, but it's hard to get out, right? Like if you gank here, and your opponent lane is right here because of where the wave is, if the enemy jungler happens to be right here, it's really hard for you to get out, because you either have to walk through here in the minion wave, or you have to walk all the way through here. If you're lucky, you know, you can be like Lee Sin and dash over here, but then that burns your dash. So let's just say you walk up here, the wave's kind of like around here, your teammate's like doing a good job. And one thing that I do notice that a lot of beginning players, or I guess any player does, that I kind of have an issue is, let's say their laner's right there, your teammate's right here, there's positioning to CS. One thing is, instead of walking up and thinking about whether or not it's warded, let's say your teammate pings that it is warded, what you should do, even if he pings that it's warded and you're walking up, you should walk up and just act like it's a normal gank. And the only time you should, if he pulls away immediately, then yes, you know it's there, but at least you wasted a little time. And the other thing is, wait, see how he reacts to this, like this minion, the minion that's about to be last hit, if he's trying to greedily walk up and steal it. But even then, basically, at any level, or especially at lower levels, but even at like where I am, and I was diamond at one point, and even then, people can have things warded and not be paying attention, and you should try to punish that, especially since taking like 10 seconds to come and do this isn't a huge issue with your clear. Like, generally, you don't have much to do here once this happens anyway, because you've cleared your red, you've cleared your whole top side, you just have scuttle that's easily accessible. But what I was gonna say is, when you come to gank like this, I guess one thing for sure that I feel like is an issue with players in general is they make the game like a little harder than it needs to be. Like, let's say I walk up here and I try to Q him, right, and I miss, and it's great if you land it, and people think that like if you're able to climb, it means you land it every time, but sometimes you just make the game easier. Like, let's pretend, ignoring the wave here, everything here, pretend that the wave is right here, they're positioned like this. Instead of throwing Q right away, all you have to do is dash, put your E, slow him. Then it's really easy to land the Q. That's your primary situation. That's your easy way of ganking. And one thing for sure though to remember is, when you do this path, typically the opponent jungle, unless you see the top lane released or something, he'll be about where you are, right? He'll be heading either top or mid and coming, so he could be coming to the same lane you are, so you need to be aware of that. And one thing to do later in the game, early it's not as important, is pressing tab before you go for a gank, just so you know what items they have and how strong they are relative to you. And the other thing you should think about when you gank is how strong each of the laners are. Especially, let's say, not even saying this gank, let's say I went for scuttle, right? I can decide if I want to gank mid or top, and it took so long, or I didn't see an opportunity to where I want to go for scuttle. One big issue I think people feel like is that they think scuttle's like the end of the world, which, I mean, it's a really nice advantage, but it's not gonna decide the game for the most part unless you give like every single scuttle and he's all clearing you hard. What you should think about before you even come and do this is where the enemy jungle is, whether or not you can take a duel one-on-one, and the other thing is, you should look where the waves are. Like right here, this is good, right? Because your mid most likely will be able to react. And over here, well, this kind of fucked it up. I kind of forgot here. Okay. Let's pretend it's like this. Your top lane's got the advantage here too. So you got two lanes. People think that, or I feel like there's a lot of issues where just because you have these two advantages means that you're gonna, you have prio, which in like a perfectly fit world, yes, but you have to be paying attention to whether or not your teammates are also like paying attention to you. Like let's say right here, your mid laner is positioned here, like when the wave was up here. That's good for you, right? Versus let's say he's positioning down here, trying to like, and the opponent laner is back here. Then that means he can react more likely faster than your teammate. And the other thing you need to think about is whether or not your teammate is actually able to help. Let's say I have a mid Fizz and they have a mid Talon. Well, Talon's going to shove Fizz in early, most likely because his spells are AoE, or his rake at least is AoE, and Fizz has no real good way to clear the wave. So he can be shoved in, and let's say top I have a Nasus versus a Renekton, where my Nasus just wants to chill here, farm, freeze the wave back here, and the Renekton wants to fight and bully. It doesn't matter where the wave is then. If it gets to a situation where I'm fighting the other jungler for this crab, most likely his laners will react before mine, regardless of where the wave is, unless it's absolutely shoved in like this, and Nasus is chilling over here because he doesn't want to get harassed while he CS's and wants the lane to push back. But for the most part, if that happens, like to where you're trying to get this crab, you see the enemy jungler coming, and let's say I start it and I just can't, I don't think I can do this because he's going to come and either steal it or I'm going to get it but they're going to kill me, just go to the other crab. I mean, it's not a huge deal. Both crabs at the beginning are pretty much worth the same thing, and he's not going to be able to kill this crab quickly enough and rotate over here to steal this from me, and that's not a big deal. Since we talked about what it's like to gank top, oh, one other thing I should mention: when you gank top, let's say I gank top like what I mentioned before, I dash in, slow him, kill him, and top laners have TP, so check if he has TP, and when you leave this, or when you finish this gank, if the wave is in a good spot, like right here, this is a great position because it's going to shove back. So instead of leaving, you know, I go through here, in case he has a ward here, I'll go and chill over here so he stops thinking about me. And look, the wave is right here again. He's going to TP back in. He might have burned flash, right? He might have burned flash during the fight, and I can just come right back in and kill him. Or at least apply pressure to where, see, the wave's over here, he's going to have a hard time CSing when the wave's over here and he feels like I'm pressuring him. I think it's part of why sometimes laners have such an issue with junglers, because as much as like he has ability to do things in the lane, you actually heavily dictate how a player is allowed to play, right? Like, let's say what I did there, where I ganked him and we killed him early, and so he had to play, not only does he have to play defensive now because he gave up first blood, but if he TP's back and I re-gank, it severely limits him, because either he's going to want to play aggressive to make up for that, and I'm going to come back and kill him again, which completely throws off his game, or he's going to have to play completely defensively even if I come in and don't kill him, because he isn't really in control of how he gets to play, if that makes sense. I'm dictating how he gets to play. And I guess the only other major thing about top is when you gank these lanes, it's pretty nice, because once you get the top laner ahead, I think this is mentioned a lot, where the top laner doesn't get visited that often, so whoever's ahead kind of just snowballs extremely well, and it's hard to gank them. Like, let's say in the Nasus versus Renekton matchup I brought up earlier. Renekton primarily only gets to win the lane if he gets to bully and kill the Nasus, right? And the Nasus' only real goal is to stay alive and stack Qs until he's strong enough to solo the Renekton. So once the Renekton can't kill because of first blood, or you got him ahead with a gank, once the Renekton can't kill the Nasus and they're pretty equal in terms of skill, this lane is automatically won for Nasus, or whoever your laner was. It's the same thing if it was the other way around, right? If you had the Renekton and they had the Nasus, you gank, you get him a little ahead. Now he can freely harass and potentially kill the Nasus and not let him farm. And that lane is primarily won. But the reason why it's really hard sometimes to win through this lane is because this lane has the least impact on the other lanes. Mid lane is in the middle of the map. He can go up or down to influence the game, and he can clear pretty fast in roam, or for the most part usually. If they can't clear fast, usually they can roam and do a lot of damage, kind of like Fizz, right? He can't push it in really easily, but once he does roam, it's really annoying to deal with him in other lanes because he is untargetable. But I guess we'll talk about mid next since I'm here. Let's say one other thing is if I don't ward here early because I'm Lee Sin, but let's say we did the pathing I was talking about earlier. You go up here, you gank. One thing you can do if you see the wave here, you're definitely planning to gank here. You can ward right here. That way you cover 2 lanes at once. So you're gonna cover for the most part. You want to put the ward actually more over here. I kind of messed that up, but that way it covers this for the mid so that he can see, and you're covering top because you're there. So you're helping these 2 lanes, and hopefully, assuming that the enemy jungler did the same path as you did, he's gonna be up here, and you basically got the whole top side covered. And so let's say you're instead of ganking top, the wave is in a bad place. You want to gank mid, right? One thing that I'd see that's really irritates me a lot is actually when people gank through this bush, early or late, I guess. But this bush is, if you're right here, you know, you're debating scuttle. There's almost no reason for you to walk through this part instead of this part, because this walking behind them here cuts off a lot more than walking through here. The other issue is, let's say he warded right here, right? You're walking through, he warded right here. If he already has it warded, he'll react to it no matter what. But generally, I feel like a lot of people, if you play mid, I'm sure you can relate to this. A lot of people prefer warding this bush, especially early, just because you can last hit here, you can drop this ward, and then you can stay in lane. You don't have to give up a lot to do this. You don't give up positioning in lane. Versus walking all the way over here, potentially missing some CS and HP, and it takes you a while to get back. You feel exposed when you're right here, because if you walk out early and the jungler's here, you're gonna die, because you're gonna get collapsed from both sides. So instead, you just quickly ward here. So what you want to do as the jungler is instead, when you come here, he'll react if he has this warded, right? So regardless, but if he happens to have this warded, this bush instead of the side one, you can walk through here and not get seen. There's a lot of ganks. Not only that, but you cut off a lot more. Like if he's standing right here, when you gank through this lane, you have a lot less pressure than if you gank from behind here. You don't have to. You also stay out of vision for longer. Walking up here, he won't see me until I am about here. Versus when I gank through lane, as soon as I walk out of this bush, he sees me, he can react. So just something to think about. And mid, I guess mid is like the lane I think that wants you to gank the most, or at least usually. And I think people usually have the easiest time I guess influencing the map when you gank mid, because usually the mid laner is going to roam. He's going to be able to clear, and he's gonna be able to he's gonna be able to influence the map, I guess is what I'm trying to say. He's gonna be able to influence the map a lot more than other lanes just because he's in the middle, right? If your mid laner's ahead, he can come top with you, he can come bot with you, he can help you with your scuttle crabs, and he reacts to the 2 main objectives here. He influences that a lot. So that's part of why ganking mid is extremely important. I guess the other thing is getting this turret is much more important than the 2 side ones for the most part. And it's because once you clear this turret, they lose a lot of vision kind of through losing the mid turret, because you have access to his wraiths, you have access to his wolves, because they have to sit so far back, the mid laner. The enemy mid laner usually prefers to sit back here when the turret's gone, just because once the turret's gone, you can gank them so easily. And they have so much less vision, as I mentioned before. But yeah, and that's pretty much it for mid lane in terms of ganking. I'm sure there's more, but I am not thinking of that stuff right now. And then bot lane, I guess, is the last part. Bot lane here, one thing is about bot lane that's really nice is that also makes it really fun to gank, kind of like how mid is fun to gank or get ahead because they can influence the map with you, is that there's 2 people bot, right? There's 2 people you can potentially kill down here. So let's say we're ganking and we come down. Unlike other lanes, if it's successful, we don't only get 1 kill, we possibly get 2, and it also gives you access to dragon if you're able to pull off a gank where you're still relatively healthy and you don't have to worry about someone coming to dragon. The other thing is, kind of like mid lane, the support roams a lot, so getting the bot lane ahead to the point where the support can roam is really useful, because he will roam, get vision with you, possibly invade with you. And on this side of the map, you know, this is the side where you get the advantage of having this little tri-bush area where it's easy for you to walk up. And the other thing that's nice is usually bot lane has the support, so he's going to clear all these wards for you. You can safely gank, and not only that, but usually support champions are CC heavy. So if you're ganking, like, and you're like me, Lee Sin, you don't really have CC until level 6. The bot lane support can do the CCing for you. And usually they're lower level than you, so it's really easy to gank when you're a little ahead. So that's pretty much what you want to be thinking about when you do these things. Remember, press tab to check their items and levels before you go in. And I guess check your teammates too, how strong they are, whether or not they have ult. And then generally, what I told you about earlier up here, when we gank top or scuttle, once you do that, and clear, your red buff should be coming back up. Your first buff that you killed should be coming back up around that time. And you want to be around level 5 by then, because you want to, when you kill this buff for the second time, you want to be 6 or near 6. And then once you get 6, that should be one of the moments in the game where you have the most impact at that time compared to other roles, because you will have your ultimate and you'll be able to bring it to a lane. And generally you want that to be an extremely impactful moment. You want your first star to snowball the game, essentially, or at least snowball it in your favor as much as you can. On this side, this plant is really good for clearing vision. Like, you can check vision if there's none there. Someone like Lee Sin can come over and do it while under vision. Oh, I didn't mention this before either. Whether or not, when you want to gank, you should be paying attention on the map to where the enemy jungler could be, or is. Like, let's say I'm right here, I'm doing this dragon, and I see the enemy jungler up here ganking my Nasus, and so I know that I can get this safely, but not only should I take this, it should open a window for me to, let's say my bot's the one pushing in right here, right? Or either way, regardless of where this is basically, assuming they're about relatively even in health, or your teammate's not super behind, this is a free game. There's going to be almost no response other than from the enemy mid laner, but your mid laner can follow. But basically this is a free gank. There's no chance of counter jungling or counter ganking happening. So assuming you have the health for it, it should be an easy decision. I didn't get a chance to mention this earlier too, but part of what you want to do, like let's say the top gank earlier that I mentioned, or even just the gank here, after we killed bot lane, right? I should go into their jungle, and not only to counter jungle, but let's say I go here, I check this is gone. I go up here and I drop a ward to check this, and this is gone. That should show me that it also gives you the timer of when they'll come back, or at least it'll show that they're gone so that you can see when they come back. You should always pay attention to that, the minimap. But it also shows me that he probably won't be down here unless they spawn really soon, right? He's probably up here. He probably ganked because he plans to clear these camps. Like, let's say that happened. That should be something you're thinking about while you clear. And I actually don't have much more to say. I wanted this to be pretty light, pretty simple. I wasn't sure if there was anything more I needed to add. I guess these bigger camps objectives should be gone over a little bit too. I mean, I feel like there isn't, I guess early game, there are some champions, or actually a decent amount, where you should grab these, or you can grab these solo, and you should if you see the opponent on the other side of the map. And especially because, especially when, like the situation I mentioned earlier, where you see the Elise up here while you're clearing your red, then you can come and grab this dragon. And generally speaking, if you're grabbing your red here, like for the second time when it respawns, the opponent should actually be doing this if they started the same path as you, because their blue buff will be respawned. So not only would you have the opportunity to come and steal this or do this dragon, but you would have the opportunity to check this. But generally speaking, if you start the same path, at the very first few clears, you're pretty much in the same places of the map as the opponent jungle. You're gonna start here, go up, and then gank mid or top, and then once you hit level 5 or so, level 4 maybe even, you should be heading back to your second buff, because if you're level 4 and you recall, you can still come and do some of these camps to hit 5 before this respawns. I guess the other thing is to think about is how you choose to clear heavily, the very first clear, heavily impacts where you could be going to get the most efficient clear. Like, because, for an example, my clear earlier where I started red and we went wolves to gromp, coming back to kill these are nice, but they're gonna be level 1 still, right? They're not gonna be, because every time you clear camp, they get a little bit stronger, they level up as the game goes on. But the ones that don't die, they don't level up, they level up when they reset. So these are gonna be weaker. Honestly, sometimes even if you choose to continue playing up here and he comes and counter jungles these, it's actually not that helpful to him. It is in terms of gold, because they always get the same amount of gold, but it'll actually give him less EXP. And versus, let's say you take this and then go and clear his 2 camps up here, but he has actually done these, so, and you have not. So you'll actually be a little ahead, because you'll be getting the higher level camps. But yeah, I was supposed to be talking about these objectives, but I guess the only other thing is, if you're on a side of the map and you see your opponent on the other, like I mentioned before, these should be free. They're actually pretty easy to take by yourself, especially Herald. So let's say it was the opposite situation. Instead of Baron being here, it was Herald. I see him ganking my bot lane. I should either immediately gank, and I miss that Q, immediately gank, like apply pressure up there, or immediately start the Herald. And that should be free for me, for the most part. But yeah, I think I've gone over pretty much everything I wanted to go over. If there was more, I'll put it in the notes in the description or something, or maybe I'll make another video, but hopefully this was a helpful beginner's guide to jungling, and if you would like more, feel free to let me know. I actually don't know if I don't typically make this type of video, and so I'm not sure if there will be more, but I felt, I don't know if any of you guys, I don't actually advertise myself too much, so I don't know if I'll even post this to anyone, but I don't know if any of you guys watch Day 9, but I've actually been watching a lot of his old StarCraft videos, because I've been playing the game, and motivated me to kind of do something I felt similar, I guess. It looked fun to make a video like that. But anyway, thanks for watching if you're here, and we'll see what happens next time. Hopefully I was able to help you out a little. Thanks for watching.